frozen moment is usually a message. The problem is, 7 completely different messages can look almost exactly the same from the outside. One freeze can mean fear. One can mean pain. One can mean your dog is overwhelmed by scent, sound, or movement. And one can be the quiet warning before barking, lunging, or shutting down completely. That is why pulling can make things worse. If your dog is afraid, pulling teaches them the world is not safe. If your dog is in pain, pulling can make you miss the first warning sign. And if your dog has learned that freezing is the only way to be heard, every tug on the leash teaches the same lesson. No one listens until I stop moving. So before you try to fix the freeze, you have to know which freeze you are looking at. In this video, we are going to break down the 7 reasons dogs freeze on walks, what each one is trying to tell you, and what to do in the first 10 seconds. Because the first reason is the one most owners mistake for disobedience. Number 1. The fear freeze. Your dog is walking normally, and then their eyes catch something you barely notice. Maybe another dog, maybe a person in a hat, maybe a trash bin that was not there yesterday, or maybe just a plastic bag moving in the wind. To you, it is nothing, but to your dog, it may be a question that has to be answered before they can take one more step. Their body goes still because stillness gives them time. In that moment, your dog is not refusing you. They are assessing. Their eyes may lock forward. Their ears may shift. Their mouth may close. Their weight may move slightly backward. Their tail may lower, stiffen, or tuck. The whole body can look like someone pressed pause. And that pause matters. Because before fight, before flight, before barking, and before lunging, there is often a moment of freeze. The nervous system stops to gather information. Is this dangerous? Is it moving toward us? Do we have room to get away? Is my person worried too? And this is where many owners accidentally turn a small freeze into a bigger problem. They pull, not because they are cruel, because they are embarrassed, because someone is watching, because traffic is coming, because they think, come on, it's just a trash can. But your dog is not reacting to the trash, can you see? They are reacting to the full picture they perceive, the shape, the smell, the sound, the movement, the memory. And your reaction? When you pull forward, the leash tightens. Pressure appears around the neck, chest, or shoulders. Now the strange thing ahead is not the only problem. The way back feels blocked too. That is how a walk can start to feel like a trap. The dog freezes harder. The owner pulls harder. The leash gets tighter. And both of them leave the moment more frustrated than they entered it. So what should you do? First, stop moving. Give the leash a little slack. Turn your body slightly sideways instead of facing the scary thing head-on. Let your dog look for a second. Then calmly create distance, even just a few steps, and reward the moment they can breathe. Look back at you or move with you again. You are not rewarding fear. You are teaching your dog that they do not have to panic to be heard. But here is the dangerous part. Not every freeze is fear. Sometimes your dog stops because the sidewalk has become a message board only they can read. Number 2. The scent freeze. Sometimes your dog freezes because the sidewalk just turned into a newspaper only they can read. A patch of grass, a fire hydrant, the corner of a fence, the base of a lamp post. To you, these are ordinary objects. To your dog, they are information sites. Another dog may have passed through. A person may have stepped there. Rain may have changed the scent. Heat may have lifted it. Wind may have carried it from somewhere else. So when your dog stops with their nose down and seems completely unreachable, they are not ignoring you the way a person ignores a text message. They are reading, and the story may be much bigger than anything you can see. This kind of freeze looks different from fear if you know what to watch for. The body is usually looser. The nose moves from one spot to another. The tail may move softly. The weight stays more balanced. The mouth may stay relaxed. They are not bracing for danger. They are gathering information. And this matters because sniffing is not a cute extra part of the walk. For many dogs, sniffing is the walk. It is how they learn who has been there, what changed since yesterday, and whether this place feels familiar or new. But this is where many owners accidentally make the walk less satisfying. They think, come on, we are not going anywhere. But from your dog's point of view, they are going somewhere, just not with their feet. They are traveling through scent. So when your dog freezes at a scent-heavy spot, the question is not always, how do I stop this? Sometimes the better question is, can I give them 10 seconds? Let the leash stay loose. Let them finish the sentence they are reading. Then use a calm cue, a soft turn of your body, or a small reward when they choose to move with you again. You are not letting your dog control the whole walk. You are giving their brain a chance to do what a dog's brain was built to do. Because a walk with no sniffing may look efficient to us, but to your dog, it can feel like being rushed through a book without being allowed to read a single page. But the third freeze is harder to read, because sometimes your dog is not afraid, and they are not just sniffing. They are stuck between two choices, and if you pull at the wrong moment, you can push them toward the wrong one. Number 3, the conflict freeze. This is the freeze of uncertainty. Your dog wants to move forward, but part of them wants to go back. They want to investigate, but they do not want to get closer yet. They want to follow you, but their body is asking for more time. So they stop in the middle. You may see them look ahead, then look back at you. They may turn their head toward home. They may take half a step forward, then plant their feet again. They may sniff the ground, but not in the loose, relaxed way from the scent freeze. You may also see yawning, lip licking, shaking off, or scanning the street. This is not stubbornness. It is conflict. And conflict is exhausting for a dog. Imagine standing at the edge of a dark hallway where you can hear something moving. Someone you trust keeps saying, "Come on, it's fine." Part of you believes them. Part of you does not. So your body does the only thing it can do while it tries to decide. It stops. This kind of freeze often happens near thresholds. The front door, the driveway, the apartment lobby, the elevator, the gate, the first corner of the street. These are places where the safe, familiar world ends and the unpredictable world begins. For a confident dog, that transition may feel exciting. For an uncertain dog, it can feel like pressure. And this is especially common with puppies. Newly adopted dogs, rescue dogs, and dogs who have not had much safe exposure to the outside world. A puppy freezing at the end of the driveway is not trying to ruin your morning. A rescue dog freezing in the apartment hallway is not being dramatic. Their brain may simply be saying, "I do not have enough information yet." And this is where many owners make the mistake. They try to talk the dog through it. "Come on, you're fine. Let's go." And when that does not work, they pull. But confidence usually cannot be forced into a dog. It has to be built. Confidence grows when your dog learns, again and again, that they are allowed to notice something, process it, and move when their body is ready. That does not mean letting your dog control the entire walk. It means helping them succeed in smaller steps. Instead of pulling them across the threshold, try taking one step back. Turn your body sideways. Loosen the leash. Let them look. Then invite them forward with a calm voice, a small movement, or a reward placed slightly ahead of them. If they move one step, that counts. If they look at the scary place and then check back in with you, that counts too. Movement is not the only sign of progress. Sometimes progress is your dog standing at the edge of the driveway, looking at the world and not panicking. That is how confidence starts. But the fourth freeze is different, and this is the one that should make every owner slow down immediately, because sometimes the problem is not fear, scent, or uncertainty. Sometimes your dog stops because something hurts. Number 4, the pain freeze. This is the freeze every owner needs to take seriously, because from the outside it can look exactly like the others. Your dog stops, and it is easy to think they are scared, or they are being stubborn, or they just want to sniff. But sometimes the reason is not emotional, it is physical. A paw pad may be scraped, a nail may be cracked, something may be stuck between the toes. The pavement may be too hot or too cold, the harness may be rubbing, a joint may ache. An older dog may be feeling arthritis, or your dog may simply be tired, overheated, nauseous, weak, or uncomfortable in a way they cannot explain. And here is the red flag. If your dog has always been cautious outside, freezing may be part of their normal emotional pattern. But if your dog usually enjoys walks and suddenly starts stopping, lagging behind, sitting down, refusing stairs, licking one paw, favoring one side, panting heavily, or trying to turn home, do not treat it as a training problem first. Treat it as information. Dogs do not have a polite way to say, "My hip hurts," or "My foot is burning," or "This harness is pinching me." Sometimes the first sentence their body can form is refusal. And this is where we have to be careful. It is easy to make every dog behavior mean love, trust, fear, or attachment. But sometimes the meaning is simpler and more urgent. Something hurts that does not make the behavior less meaningful. It makes it more important. So if the freezing is sudden, intense, getting worse, paired with limping, paired with fatigue, or happening in an older dog, do not push through it. Pause the walk. Check the paws. Check the harness or collar. Check the pavement temperature. Shorten the route. And if the pattern continues, or if your dog seems painful, weak, or different from normal, call your veterinarian. This is not about assuming the worst. It is about not missing the first quiet warning. Because the most loving interpretation is not always the most poetic one. Sometimes it is the most practical one. But there is another kind of freeze that can confuse even experienced owners. It has nothing to do with fear, scent, or pain. It has to do with memory. Number 5. The memory freeze. This is the freeze that does not begin on today's walk. It begins on a walk your dog remembers. Dogs learn routes. They learn corners. They learn houses. They learn which fence has the barking dog behind it. They learn where the garbage truck surprised them, where the skateboard appeared, where the thunder started, where they slipped, where something felt wrong. And they do not need a calendar to remember it. So your dog may freeze before the place where something happened, not at the place itself. You may be 10 steps away from the corner, looking around and thinking, "There is nothing here." But your dog is not reacting to what is here. They are reacting to what usually comes next. That is why some dogs seem to freeze for no reason. The reason is not visible anymore. It happened yesterday, or last week, or months ago, but the root still carries the memory. And once you understand this, certain walk problems start making more sense. The dog who freezes before one particular street. The dog who refuses to pass one house. The dog who slows down near the route to the vet. The dog who was fine until construction started, then began stopping 2 blocks before the noise. The dog who had one frightening encounter with an off-leash dog and now plants their feet before the park entrance. From the owner's point of view, the dog is overreacting. From the dog's point of view, the prediction is the whole point. It says, "Last time something happened here," or even more accurately, "Last time something happened after here." And if you ignore that warning system long enough, it can escalate. A dog who freezes and gets pulled may start backing up. A dog who cannot back up may start barking. A dog who cannot create distance may lunge. And a dog who is repeatedly forced toward what scares them may eventually decide that freezing is not enough anymore. So if your dog freezes in the same place again and again, do not only ask, "What is wrong with this spot?" Ask, "What does my dog think happens next?" Then change the prediction, cross the street earlier, turn around before the freeze point, take a different route for a few days, stop at a safe distance, and let your dog look. Reward them before they panic, not after. The goal is not to trick your dog past the place. The goal is to teach their brain that this part of the walk can end differently now, because memory can create a freeze. But new experiences can rewrite what the freeze means. And that brings us to number 6, the freeze that happens before everything gets loud. Number 6, the warning freeze. With reactive dogs, stillness can be the first sign that the system is loading. Your dog sees another dog across the street. Their body stiffens. Their mouth closes. Their stare locks. The ears shift. The leash tightens. You feel it. And without meaning to, your own body tightens too. Now both ends of the leash are holding their breath. Then the barking begins. But the barking was not the start of the moment, the freeze was. And that is important, because the freeze is the moment where you still have options. You can create distance, you can turn away, you can step behind a parked car, you can soften the leash, you can break the stare. You can scatter a few treats on the ground and let your dog sniff. You can help them leave before they feel they have to explode. A freeze is not always failure. Sometimes it is the last quiet warning before the loud behavior. And if you learn to see it early, you do not have to wait for the barking to begin before you help. This is where one of the most overlooked parts of the walk appears. You are part of the walk too. Not in a blaming way, in a real way. Your dog is not just reading the street. They are reading you, your speed, your breathing, your leash hand, your shoulders, your voice. The moment you see another dog before they do. The half second when you shorten the leash. The way your body changes when you expect trouble. For many dogs, that becomes information. They may not know exactly why you changed, but they know you changed. And if the person they trust suddenly becomes tense, the world may start to feel less safe. This is how a pattern builds without anyone meaning for it to happen. The dog freezes. The owner gets nervous. The leash tightens. The dog feels trapped. The owner starts anticipating the next reaction. And the dog starts feeling that anticipation before anything has even happened. Again, this does not mean you cause the fear. It means dogs and humans influence each other constantly. The leash is not just a piece of equipment. It is a line of communication, and sometimes that line says, something is wrong. So when you see the warning freeze, try to do the opposite of what panic tells you to do. Do not hold your breath. Do not lock the leash short. Do not stare at the other dog. Create space early. Lower the pressure. Move your feet before your dog has to use their voice. Because the goal is not to punish the bark after it happens. The goal is to hear the quiet warning before your dog feels forced to get loud. Now, there is one more version of freezing. And this is the one owners often resist hearing because at first it sounds like the dog is being manipulative. But the truth is more nuanced. Number 7. The learned freeze. This is the freeze many owners resist hearing about. Because at first, it can sound like the dog is being manipulative, but that is not the right way to understand it. Sometimes freezing works. If a dog stops and the walk turns around, stopping worked. If the dog freezes and gets picked up, stopping worked. If the dog plants their feet and the owner suddenly gives attention. Negotiation, treats, pleading, or 5 minutes of emotional theater, stopping worked. But that does not mean the dog is fake. A dog can be genuinely worried and still learn that freezing changes the situation. A dog can be physically uncomfortable and still learn that stopping brings relief. A dog can be curious and still learn that planting their feet gives them more time to sniff. Learning does not make the behavior dishonest. It makes it stronger. And this is why the answer is not to punish the freeze. The answer is to understand what the freeze accomplishes. If freezing creates distance from something scary, the need may be safety. If freezing buys more time at a scent, the need may be information. If freezing ends the walk, the need may be rest. If freezing always leads to being picked up, the pattern may now be part habit, part preference, and part history. The behavior is the surface. The reason is underneath. So when your dog freezes, do not start by asking, how do I make them move? Start by asking, what changed? Look ahead. Is there a dog, person, vehicle, sound, surface, object, or location that might matter? Look at your dog's body. Are they loose or stiff, curious or worried, sniffing or scanning, leaning forward or leaning back, trying to retreat, or simply pausing? Look at the ground. Is it hot, icy, slippery, sharp, noisy, or unfamiliar? Look at the gear. Is the harness twisted? Is the leash tight? Is the collar pressing? And look at your dog again. Are they limping, panting, lifting a paw, licking, trembling, or suddenly tired. Those few seconds can tell you more than any tug on the leash ever will. Then do 3 things. First, soften the pressure. Give the leash a little slack if it is safe. Turn your body slightly sideways. Breathe. A direct forward pull says, go toward the thing. A softer body says, we have options. Second, create distance. Distance is one of the most powerful tools in dog behavior. Cross the street. Turn around. Step behind a parked car. Move into a driveway. Give your dog a wider arc. This is not giving up. This is showing your dog that they do not need to panic to be heard. Third, change the setup. If the freeze keeps happening, do not keep repeating the same walk and hoping for a different dog. Try a quieter time, a shorter route, more sniffing breaks, better gear, more space from triggers, gentle confidence building near thresholds. And if the freezing is new, sudden, physical, worsening, or paired with limping, fatigue, or pain, talk to your veterinarian. If fear or reactivity is severe, get help from a qualified professional, because the solution is not one magic phrase. It is a better question repeated over time. What is my dog telling me here? Because the freeze itself is not the enemy. The freeze is the message. And once you understand that, the entire walk changes. That moment, when your dog plants their paws, is no longer just an inconvenience. It becomes a doorway into how they experience the world. The loud truck you barely notice, the house with the barking dog, the smell on the grass, the corner where something startled them, the pain they cannot describe, the tension in your hand, the memory in the root, the question in their body. Should we go forward? Should we wait? Are you seeing this too? Can we move away? Do I have a choice? That is the part most owners miss. A dog who freezes is not always refusing the walk. Sometimes they are asking to be included in it. They are asking for 1 second to gather information, 1 second to feel safe, 1 second to be believed, 1 second for you to notice that the world at the end of the leash is not the same world they are living in. And when you give them that second, something changes. Not always instantly, not dramatically, but slowly, walk by walk. Your dog learns that stopping does not have to become a fight. They learn that uncertainty does not always lead to pressure. They learn that their person can read the small signals before the big ones appear. They learn that the leash is not a trap. They learn that the outside world can be explored, not endured. That is when movement starts to come back. Not because you forced it, because your dog feels safe enough to choose it. So the next time your dog freezes on a walk, do not rush to label it stubbornness. Ask which freeze this is. Is it fear? Is it scent? Is it conflict? Is it pain? Is it memory? Is it a quiet warning before a reaction? Or is it a learned pattern because stopping finally made someone listen? Maybe your dog is not saying no forever. Maybe they are saying, wait, something changed. And if you can hear that before the bark, before the panic, before the shutdown, before the walk becomes a struggle, you will understand something most owners never do. Your dog's silence is still communication. Those planted paws are not the end of the conversation. They are where the conversation begins. If this helped you understand your dog a little differently, subscribe for more videos that explain what your dog is trying to tell you before those quiet signals turn into bigger problems.